Gender-based violence is a global pandemic that affects 1 in 3 women in their lifetime. Gender-based violence is directed against a person because of their gender, and both women and men experience it. But the majority of victims are women and girls. Experts say the various types of gender-based violence include physical, sexual, psychological, economic harm, or suffering to women. This is including threats such as acts of coercion or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or private life. Experts says COVID-19 pandemic led to a rise in gender-based violence cases, and it is crucial to escalate and maintain a sense of urgency in cases of gender-based violence, even during crisis situations. Preventing gender-based violence requires a community-based, multi-pronged approach and sustained engagement with multiple stakeholders. Gender-based violence should not only be seen as evil, but man's inhumanity to humans. Welcome to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. I'm Lydia Sampson. Ibrahim Belogunda, in our first report, tried to find out why the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What is the significance and impact of the annual international campaign? Should only 16 days be observed for the gender-based violence? Well, Ibrahim Belogunda is set to share his findings with us.
Gender-based violence is a global public health, gender equality and human rights abuse violation priority. It remains a systematic crisis affecting 1 in every 3 women worldwide. The risk increases during humanitarian emergencies, according to the United Nations. While violence affects women everywhere, women and girls in certain groups such as those living with disability, adolescent girls, and the older women often face greater difficulty to have their voices heard and to access support. Therefore, the setting aside of the global 16 days activism against gender-based violence, which is a key moment to call for an end to violence against women and girls annually from 25th November to 10th December, is a clarion call for actions across various sectors and disciplines.
The 16 days activism is a global call for action for us to promote and fight against gender-based violence, because gender-based violence is affecting both the men and the women, and it's affecting our development. In Nigeria, we have a national gender policy that is on ground. We have the VAB bills. So these policies and laws should be enforced. So awareness should be created and a lot of mechanisms should be put in place.
People should not be limited. The 16 days to me is not enough. It should be extended. There should not be no limits, because violence against women and against child has caused more harm than good in this country. I don't want to mention names. It occurs every day in our homes. If you go to the law courts in this country, you will see a lot of divorce cases in this country. It's all about violence against women.
16 days and even beyond. It should go transcend the calendar, the calendarized days in the year, because the issue of gender-based violence is very, very commonplace within the African enclave, within Africa and Nigeria, and the more we get people around to discuss and have conversation around things like this that affect women, the better for the society and the better for all of us.
This is a global movement that helps us to come up with strategies and ways to prevent and eliminate violence against women and girls. So this 16 days is for people to have, we need solidarity. We need people to be informed about what gender-based violence is, because there's a lot of misconceptions about it. We need to give safe spaces for victims to speak. We need to let people know what are the policies and the laws that are available, so that an agency of women are increased and the opportunities to eliminate this is also on the rise. So we need to come together, because everybody's business. The first day, 25th of November, is the International Day for Eliminating Violence Against Women. The 10th of December is the Human Rights Day. So this is just a particular day, this particular period where people want the voices. But this is a campaign that must happen every day in our individual lives.
In most countries and cultures, including Nigeria, more action is needed to ensure women in all their diversity live free from violence and coercion. Hence, the campaign for the elimination of violence against women and girls child.
Like I said, it's not just based on women because even men are experiencing gender based violence. I believe it can be eliminated. Unfortunately, we know that research says it's going to take about 200 and something years to bridge the gap between women and men. But if everybody puts a hand on deck, yes, it might look like nothing is happening, but the truth is that a lot of traction has been made. If we keep putting up these efforts that we're doing, yes, eventually it will happen. When it will happen, that we might not be able to say. But yes, we're hopeful that it will happen if we continue on this pace.
Family members are scared of getting to report the victim, most especially if it's a high-placed person. The person that was reported to me that raped a 10-year-old child yesterday is a high-placed person. But the family stood up and like, no, we need to speak out. And this is because of this awareness we're creating. Hey, don't hide it. Speak out. She has been told that she will be bribed, that she would be given 3 million, that the child was great, that before the child is 15 years old, she would forget even that kind of thing happened to her. But because of this awareness we're creating that no one should keep silent, everyone should speak out, that is why that woman is still bracing up. Else, some people would collect 3 million and like, the child will actually forget that that kind of thing happens to her. So the awareness is actually amazing.
You can, but it's always a starting point. You need to create awareness. You need to first and foremost let people know about it, know the ills about it, and it's a gradual thing, taking into consideration that people are coming from different backgrounds and cultures, so they need to understand it. So it will get there, but it has to be a gradual process. We have to start with awareness creation, enlightenment, education, capacity building. A lot of rebuilding activity, rehabilitation, reintegration issues have to carry out. People have been traumatized. You need to do a lot of psychosocial support counseling services to people that have been affected by the insurgency, the violence around it, and we should rebuild our communities and reintegrate the people back to their communities.
We can have an aggregated action that is going to the barest minimum, limit it within the society, because there are structures, there are patriarchal structures that kind of have had a hold on this issue of violence, gender violence against women and all that. But what we can just do is to keep talking about it, and of course, we can get a very good result at the end of the day.
Hence the campaign for the elimination of violence against women and girl child, prompting the question,
It's a stakeholder thing. You at home, the government, the lecture, wherever you are as an individual, as a national, as a government worker, we should start it. It starts with you and I. It starts with you and I. We start with the education of self before also it's a stakeholder thing for every one of us.
It is the collective action of everyone in the society, because an injustice against a woman is an injustice against humanity. So if we begin to look at it from that prism, the, our society will become better in terms of policy, in terms of engagement, and in terms of how we see ourselves. So I believe it is not an individual effort, it's a collective effort, and that is how we can make serious impact in the society.
Many people can lead the fights against violence against woman and girl child. There are a lot of activists. There are a lot of lawyers. There are a lot of human rights activists, social crusaders. Who can lead that? There are humanities, people who have human feelings. The church, the mosque, the schools can lead in this crusade. It is not limited to a single unit.
Every single one of us, CSOs, the NGOs, the international bodies, the government, most especially our government. Most especially our government. Why we say most especially our government? Because if you and I stand out tomorrow and like, oh, we're fighting against gender, a child was raped, we need to do something. And we do put all efforts, we take the necessary steps, we go to the hospitals, we get all the doctors' reports, and we get to the court's room and there's no justice, it makes the whole process futile. So tomorrow, if we want to talk about it, we would not want to talk about it because we're like, at the end of the day, we would not get justice. So why I said the government has much more to work on is because they are the one that they are the last hope for man. Because we cannot do, no matter how we fight, no matter how we scream, no matter how the placard we carry, no matter the activism, the awareness, the sensitization, and the person who the abuser is not brought to book, the whole process is futile.
Investment does not just mean financial investment. These things that we are doing is an investment. We're talking about it in your immediate environment. You're investing in ensuring that your girl child, your sister, your neighbor is not being violated. That's investment. So everybody has a role to play in this movement. But yes, we still need funding. We need a lot of global advocacy, global communities to talk. But the truth is that investing is everybody's business. You either invest your voice, you invest your empathy, you invest your time, you invest your money. But investment goes for everybody. Me in my neighborhood, I want to stop it. You in your neighborhood, you can stop it. So everybody needs to invest financially and otherwise.
They call for action to increase awareness, galvanize advocacy efforts, and share innovation to help end all types of violence against women and girls. The theme for the campaign this year is Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. Who then is expected to lead this unity advocacy to end this needless violence? The health impact of violence, experts agree, can last a lifetime, affecting physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health of victims, especially in rural areas where campaigns and sensitizations are minimal.
You educate a girl child, by extension, you are educating the world.
If that man was actually given 10, 15 years, I don't think he will be coming back again to come rape the same child again.
If you choose a criminal as your role model, there is every possibility that you will find yourself in jail.
30 Minutes is a current affairs program that offers our viewers in-depth analyses on national and international issues through expository interviews and investigative reportage. Watch 30 Minutes on NTA News 24, Thursday 6:30 p.m. with repeat episodes Fridays and Saturdays 6:30 a.m.
Welcome to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. The clock is ticking. Thank you, Ibrahim Belugunda. Now the campaign is for the elimination of violence against women. The question is, can violence against women really be eliminated? Yes. However, in this report by Thomas Egbetere, there are still hurdles to cross. These include shame and silence and some other major discouraging trends mitigating the amplification of identified gender-based violence. Thomas, how can the prevention be fast-tracked?
The spate of gender-based violence in Nigeria is escalating to an alarming proportion that cannot be overemphasized, with discouraging trends amplifying gender-based violence. According to experts, this includes societal norms, lack of awareness, and the persistence of harmful gender stereotypes.
We saw our fathers actually either abused our mothers, either verbally, emotionally, in fact, mostly emotionally. And so when we were going to get married, they called us and said, "See, come closer. You know, the excitement of the wedding will soon be over, but you have to know that marriage," in fact, I was told that marriage is not so much of enjoyment too that you have to endure. So we were told this, and the part of what we were told again is that you can't discuss your family secret with someone else. So even if you're dying, you can't tell anyone because that will mean that you're disclosing your family secret. You think that they will use it against you. Again, no matter how hot it gets, if you go back to your parents to tell them that, "No, I don't think this is working. This guy is abusing me," some physically, some emotionally, and some both physically and emotionally. And the children are watching. The male children are watching. The female children are also watching. They pick these characters from their fathers and their mothers.
And that's why you see whatever that happens to a woman or a girl child, the society, the family members, the extended family, even the neighbors, we want to say, "Oh no, it's a man's world." Just allow it to be. Don't expose your family secrets outside, even when they are meant to have been able to tackle it and ensure that sanction is melted to the perpetrator. And also, The aspect of stigmatization is another norm that in the Western world, people are ready to talk about any negative incident that has occurred to them, either rape or any other thing like that. But here, in the part of the world, nobody wants you to talk about rape, especially when you are not married. Even to a married person also, if someone rapes you or your husband, because husbands too can also rape their wife, the society don't want to hear about it because they believe is a stigma on the family lineage.
It is because a few people feel that a woman's body is an all-comers affair. I can do anything I like to a woman or to a girl or to a child. What is their body for? That is what it is meant for. So I can either take it or be given. And or if she's my wife, I can do anything I want. I have paid a bride price. These are social norms in society, and the inequalities that actually cause violence against women and girls particularly. Of course, violence also happens to men, and there are men that can be vulnerable, there are women that can be vulnerable. But we know that more than 90% of cases of gender-based violence happens to women.
People growing up on the streets will likely grow to be very violent. So if all children are in school and they are properly taught, if all children grow up in homes where there is a father and a mother that bring them well, then the problem will be less. But when you have children growing up on the streets, you cannot possibly have a sane environment or sane families. So good education, and not only academic education, but good education from the family and in the society will help reduce it, of course.
The general belief is that although violence against women is preventable, deepening the annual 16 days activism against GBV, as well as enshrining strong legal framework, is sacrosanct.
Violence against women is very prevalent. It's more than you can even think or imagine. It's more than anybody can think or imagine. And the scary thing is that it's mental, it's emotional, in addition to being physical. So it's not something that, so the mental distress, emotional distress people go into as a result of violence, how do you start to explain that? Statistics of people suffering from mental health challenges in Nigeria is 1 to 6.
That gender-based violence is not all about the physical assault and rape. When you not talk about emotional blackmail on the woman or abuses or psychological trauma that the women folk go through, you now need a psychologist, a counselor to be able to counsel them. So when we talk about the rise, there are a lot of the aspect, the emotional abuse, the psychological aspect that people don't even know about.
While enumerating reasons why GBV is still high in Nigeria, experts say despite non-governmental organizations and individuals doing their best in campaigns against GBV, societal pressure, stereotypes, and traditional beliefs sometimes perpetuate the narratives that endurance is a virtue, leading to the needless deaths of violence victims due to silence.
If you look at the family setting, like the example you said, yes, you pay the bride price to be your wife, but not to be a slave. She's supposed to be a partner to complement you. The child is your son or your daughter. She's supposed to be guided. She's supposed to be protected. In the course of trying to protect that child, and the child is now doing something that you feel is wrong, there's a moderation on how to bring that child back to on the right path to follow.
Even in marriage, that rape is also prevalent, because once there's no consent, although she's your wife, she must give you consent. And so once there's no consent, it becomes a matter of rape. Of course, many cases, women don't take that up, but that is also recognized by law. Of course, there are other manifestations of SGBV in marriage, for example, in beating, but not just beating, even in terms of financial abuse, where women are not empowered, women are not given access to various infrastructure or facilities or opportunities.
Experts are emphatic that it is crucial for victims to be encouraged to speak out to break the cycle and challenge harmful norms.
How did we start covering, allowing things fester? So I'm just saying, looking from the cultural dimension, there is no historical background that gives a basis for the need to cover it and make it a family issue. It's a community issue. The community is being weakened. People are there's a lot of trauma, and we know that people that are traumatized, you perpetuate, you weaken societal structure if you're constantly covering violence against women. So
It's also good to speak out, because if you look at the case of the late Osinachi, the gospel singer, if he has spoken out and seek for help, yes, the society might have laughed on her, we might have talked down on her, but she will still be alive today.
They are sad that there were instances of women dying in silence instead of summoning courage to speak out, to escalate societal awareness, legal action, and breaking the silence that perpetuates violence against women, children, and even men and boys. In some cases, therefore, countless women have continued to suffer needlessly as victims of domestic violence.
I know of a lady who her husband actually told her that everything she has belongs to him. She earns her salary, she gives it to him. She takes the whole salary from the bank plus her pay slip and presents it to him. So she has to buy anything, she applies to him. And even if she gets a gift, it's his own. And she dares not talk when he's talking. You don't have a right to talk. She had to put up with that. It took a lot of people to beg her to come out of it, because he was even abusing her physically.
Why is it that when gender-based violence happens, the first thing we try to do is to blame the woman, is to look for blame? What did she say? What did she wear? What did she do? So if we can change that culture to say that this person has been violated, this person has been hurt, the person who should be ashamed, the person who should be punished is the perpetrator.
They suggested training and retraining of officers of the law, especially the Nigerian police, to be more professional and emphatic in their investigative duties, to avoid shaming victims instead of protecting them against perpetrators.
I have seen where a woman goes to the police station to report her husband because he was always strangulating her at night, and it took neighbors to rescue her. She goes to the police station, and after she narrates her ordeal to the police, they say, "Madam, go home, go and settle with your husband."
And I am aware that the Police Service Commission is thinking of training of the rank and file of the police on understanding what trauma is, so that they know what questions to ask, what questions not to ask. They know how to intervene in these matters.
They always want you to settle out of courts. They don't want anybody to hear about it, even when you know that the girl child has been raped and justice must prevail. They otherwise want to advise you not to pursue such a case, and it's not the best for such a girl child or a woman that has found herself as a victim of gender-based violence.
They noted that while there are visible policies against GBV in Nigeria, enforcement and awareness remain challenging.
Did you know that trafficking of children, young persons, is violence? Carrying children from their parents under the age of 14 is violence. Keeping them in your house is violence. As house girl, taking your children to the swimming pool and keeping that 13-year-old or 11-year-old to stand in the corner is violence.
Experts say it is critical to also escalate the fact that GBV also affect boys. They emphasize the need for gender-neutral awareness and support. They also add that sociocultural trends such as rigid gender roles and patriarchal structure are major contributors to the persistence of GBV.
Far back, it was short skirts and tube tops, tube wrappers that they tied. They were practically open. Their bodies were open, their feet, their stomach, their back, everywhere was open. Why were men not attacking them? Why were they not being raped? So why would you now say it's because someone is wearing a bomb short or a tube? I mean, I do not in any way promote indecent dressing. I try to be as modest and dress modestly as possible. But that should not be a yardstick.
We have some women who are the breadwinner of the home. Maybe the husband lost his job during the course of their life, and the woman will start to want to be the lord of the house. He wants to talk down on the man. He wants to compare the man to his other colleagues. That is part of the what we are talking about gender-based violence. So the focus is always more on the woman and the girl child, but also the men too. We too, we are also victims, and we also have the boy child being molested.
The consensus is that eliminating GBV requires a holistic approach involving education, legal reforms, and cultural shifts across the country.
Women have died in silence needlessly, and it is time to listen to and believe survivors. It is time to provide a safe space for survivors to share their stories while breaking the cycle of abuse by allocating more resources to programs that prevent and respond to gender-based violence, as less than 1% of humanitarian funding worldwide goes towards such programs. We need to keep girls in schools by ensuring that they have access to education and opportunities which can help them escape the cycle of violence. We must also change societal attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that contribute to gender-based violence by engaging men in the fight to end it. This way, the collective works towards eliminating gender-based violence and ensuring a safer and more equal for all society for women and girls. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another critical issue. Until then, be safe. I'm Lydia Sampson.